Welcome to the Diplomats. I'm Ed Go Horns Go Sullivan, along with my two other diplomats, Audacious Hand and Superstition from the Nexus server. We are going to go over the trials, the tribulations, the vanity, the hubris that represents the season 6 main event finals, brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com. For all your diplomacy briefing content. What's going on in the hobby, you go to diplomacybriefing.com. And if you're not a member of the Nexus server on diplomacy, you should, because it's blowing up this week. Guys, how are you doing? How are you doing?
It's not midnight, so I'm doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing great. It feels strange to see your faces in the light of the sun.
I don't know if I've ever done one of these from my office before.
We did Paris method, didn't we?
No, I did not. I did not do that. By the way, Audacious Hand, I like how you always misspell your name.
It just keeps going back to that. Let me fix it.
It's probably in your
well, fellas, I want to start out and say I'm a little embarrassed here, right? I think we spent, what, 1.4 hours looking at the spring 1906 moves of the Nexus finalists. And we talked ourselves into a sneaky Italy, Russia, England alliance. We talked ourselves into every little thing. I gave incompletes in the East. And you know what? I think it turned out that everything was just like it looks on the map. It wasn't our little, fantasy contest.
We were expecting a depth that was not there. It was very shallow. Might as well be a gunboat right now.
Yeah. I just cannot believe it was actually just an error on VI's part, and perhaps the greatest, not in terms of the consequence, but in terms of the just absolute comedy of drawing a giant VI and tagging the map and then accidentally losing St. Petersburg. It's almost harder to believe the simpler explanation, but here we are. Just
refuse to believe it.
Just amazing and hilarious. I will say though, we could have regrets that we spent an entire hour of our lives just indulging in paranoid fantasy and coming up with every possible way in which this could be used to deceive others. But I think that in contrast to the kind of boring and stilted DBN commentary, which is entirely about what is, what makes, I think, our podcast so, superior is a strong word, but I won't avoid it. So superior is that we're willing to engage with what isn't, with the
they deal in reality and we deal in fiction. That's why we're better, according to you.
Yeah, it's fiction, but fiction, I think, has equal strength, is an equally strong part of our social lives. And I think it's important that we capture the imagination that might be going on around the board. So we did a great job. I think that we should give ourselves a pat on the back for our narrative talents.
Fellows, I looked at this before and I was like, I think we got an RT. And then I went a number of different ways. It really was Occam's razor, though.
Yeah.
And it really was. And for vanity, for hubris, to get the VI. This is why he's going to lose the game or not win, because, he wanted to draw a little VI. And it tells me, maybe we're giving him too much credit. Well, all we do is compliment this guy. I called him Michael Corleone in season 2. Maybe he is Fredo, except, Fredo's great line in there is, I'm not dumb like everybody else says. I'm smart. Maybe VI should be, I'm not smart like everybody else says. I'm dumb. I make mistakes. And this is what a whopper of a mistake this was.
He's such a smart diplomat, even though this is a terrible, embarrassing mistake. At least he can put this on his resume and will forever be able to sandbag himself using this move. anytime someone accuses him of being a mastermind, every time someone tries to target him, he can say, well, remember the time I tried to draw a VI and lost St. Petersburg in the finals. And he might have actually made good use of this mistake in this turn. So
I don't know, but remember how we've been having this conversation about biggest blunders in season final history? I think this has got to be the biggest blunder. I mean, he may do well. He may theoretically still win, but this is a blunder.
I mean, just the level of embarrassment of drawing VI just puts it over the top despite any tactical outcomes.
I think there's probably bigger blunders, but yeah, this is a theatrical blunder that's just immense. Like, you can't hide this.
It just might be also the funniest mistake ever made in Nexus finals. It's the purely, I mean, you accidentally missing a build was pretty amusing, but this just is truly hilarious.
Well, it's mostly sad, and everyone's like, oh, that's sad, but this is like, yeah, on a different level.
Well, I think we got to get to it a little out of order. I mean, we're going to talk about the fall and winter of 06 and what came after this and why we're so sure now that this really was just a tragic mistake, but maybe one that he deserved, given his Icarus-like hubris. But the aftermath, the reason I became aware of the fall 1906 being processed was Max Vax's post blasting Ewok, Mad Max crying to everybody about how mean Ewok is. Oh, it's so unfair.
Oh, well, let's unpack this a little bit. I kind of picked out these three particular posts because I loved, they kind of show how this built towards a dramatic finale. I mean, the Riaz kind of foreshadowed that a shitstorm was coming with the "I know what you did to get Try" shortly after adjudication, which I really liked. Yeah, it's very threatening with the little winky face. Ewok was still riding high in public opinion when he posted this lovely picture representing the repressed romantic love between Stalin and Churchill, and by extension, him and Riaz, which I think that, the Nexus historians have come together and completely debunked at this point Ed's theory that they did not love each other through very rigorous research and study. And as you can, and the proof of that, right, is in the emojis, for instance, the
Right, yeah.
Hotel reactions. I mean, there's no better way to gauge the truth than by the emoji reactions.
It is the 21st century after all.
Exactly, yeah. But, Ewok's kind of joking relationship with the public, his kind of flirtation with people's champ status soon came to a crashing halt with the drama that ensued. So let's talk about Max's is lashing out, his ugly crying, as Stitches might call it. I especially enjoyed how it opened with "Dear Nexus community."
This is just on the same level as a conch or a Pala expression. It generates so much buzz. This is great. This is public condemnation.
Yeah, a conch always has this kind of comedic side to it that indicates that he is slightly laughing himself.
Sure.
What I find unique with Max's is that you seem so serious. It really conveys just utter disappointment and disgust. I like how he says he will be providing screenshots later on. We can look forward to that, though I would have liked to see the screenshots immediately. Personally, and then my condolences to all who respected him.
What gets me is I think we've been spending most of the podcast, praising how well he does his diplomacy. There's been
he's been upset.
By Ed.
You can never critique his diplomacy.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to me that someone would just be like, "Oh, I was fooled," even though it's kind of out there. It can happen, especially with Ewok. So
yeah, I mean, we can talk about what the practical outcomes of him burning the bridges publicly with Russia are. How useful this is. Will this bring him anywhere? What the alternative paths could be. But I did love Riaz kind of swooping in like a carrion eating bird, and letting having Max cry on his shoulder, and the ensuing kind of the ensuing politics where Ewok, and unfortunately the image was deleted, but Ewok, excuse me, people are shooting guns outside. The ensuing drama where Ewok posts an image of a suicide bomber, right, to represent Max's strategy of threatening catastrophic suicide if it were to be stabbed, and Riaz pointing out that this stab took place on Eid, which is the last day of Ramadan, and also I believe celebrates Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son in the name of God, which we can touch upon in a minute. So we have an Eid stab. We can add this. We can file this away with the Christmas stab. Though Max is not Muslim, as far as I know. But Riaz's contention that this image was in fact insensitive because it took place on Eid and because Max's ally Riaz is Muslim. So I don't know if I can address that claim at face value, but I will say this, right? If in a way you could see this stab as a celebration of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, right? I mean, his
Who's the son? Max Vex?
Yes. But the only problem is God was supposed to intervene and save him and replace him with the ram. And I don't know where God was on this map. It was almost like God is dead on a diplomacy board or something.
maybe Max was the ram.
So yeah, we'll see. Interesting political situation developing here. I actually think this has pretty big ramifications. For instance, Max has made it so that he can no longer work with Russia.
Were they working together? I will no longer work with you.
Yeah, they weren't. But he, in a way, he's burnt the possibility. I mean, so there's different approaches when someone stabs you, right? You can make an example of them, commit suicide, and just hope that reputation helps you in future games. You can file away the resentment in your, we used to call, actually, we haven't used this metaphor for a while. It was more last year, but, you get your bottle of resentment and you put it away in your cellar.
That's right.
Which might have actually been a better revenge here, just because he doesn't have very many options, but you could say, oh, I forgive you for your soft stab, and then you come back later, which is not the route Max taken. So now he's locked into an alliance with England. I don't know how much England can help him. I also, this is not immediately obvious, but I actually think that this solidifies the Russian-Turkish alliance, because by making it personal, right, Turkey will feel that turning on Russia would be siding with Russia's personal enemies and then just be a personal affront. So actually, on an emotional level, I think it makes it harder for Turkey to turn on Russia here.
It's certainly harder for Russia to turn. He knows he can never work with Max. You're dead to me.
Yeah.
I disagree there. I think it's easier for Turkey. He pretty much can pick whoever he wants, and knowing that they probably will never work together maximizes gains if he's good. I wish someone would use this in a misdirection in finals. Like, I'm going to post this and people will think it's a blow up, but actually this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, that would be
Discord
great.
has been used successfully in past games, but I've never seen it really used in a finals. for misdirection like this.
I think Conk has tried.
Conk has tried. A little bit too late because he's always under siege. He can't really use it as a partnership as necessary, but he's the closest.
Yeah, I think the next level, anyone watching this who's going to do season 7, 8, 9, or 10, and I know it won't be me, I'll be here with you guys again, but even though I'll try, needs to figure out how to meta the commentators. As opposed to trying to get to us, but creating things in the commentary almost has this aura of truth. Yeah. Riaz wouldn't lie in the comments. Mad Max wouldn't lie in the comments. You know, these guys are telling the truth in the comments, and I think that can be used effectively. It's a polygraph in the game, I think, and so the people who can do that can, I think, create a great deception.
Well, yeah, actually, I mean, people have used Discord before, but yeah, using Discord to even influence, us is even a bigger step, because that's going to go out and then we're going to analyze that on top of it. So yeah, that's interesting.
It would be great.
The next great frontier and advance in Nexus finals play, I think, will be fake public conflict.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if really there is a winter green?
It would be, but I don't see Max doing this level of inception. So everything's been pretty straightforward. Yeah, there's just no layers there. Everyone's pretty direct and honest, or about lying. There's not a big layer.
I guess the only one that comes close is, I do wonder about some of Riaz's insertion of himself into this conflict. Kind of smacks of an attempt to isolate Russia diplomatically, and also to isolate him in terms of his popularity to the masses. So I mean, there is a little bit of element, but you guys are right. I would love to see, and the emotions can be even authentic. That would actually make them more believable, as long as you can then turn them back around the next turn. So, but again, we're just, I don't think that's what's happening here at all.
All right, well, let's go look at the moves that allowed us to do the diversion. And I guess, we know for a fact now that Ewok did not intend to have St. Petersburg dislodged in the spring, because we can see what he does here. And also we know that there's an RT that's solidified when Budapest goes into Trieste.
Supportive of Serbia.
Right. I mean, if I remember correctly, I said on the last podcast, Turkey could have Trieste or Turkey could have Ionian. One of the two would be guaranteed. As it turns out, Russia was able to talk himself into getting that Trieste, I guess, because he could argue to Turkey that he was losing St. Petersburg. Man, Turkey reminds me a lot of myself. Why does Turkey always have to be the guy like giving centers to someone else? Why can't Turkey be the person taking centers sometimes? Ewok doesn't seem to ever have that problem. If Ewok needs a center, he just takes it. Yeah. But Turkey here has to be the one that, okay, here you go. I guess I got Greece. I can never lead this game, but I'll help you into Trieste.
I kind of disagree in this. I mean, I would say Tsinjian is the player who, it's funny because some people, like, for instance, with Riaz, I have people who I get very high on, and then my opinion just completely, cascades downwards, and then it rockets up and goes down. But Tsinjian, his game has just grown on me steadily, turn by turn. And I find myself just slowly turning into an admirer of his game. I think that giving Turkey, look at the outcome of helping Russia into Trieste. They're now
all Russia's units away.
Yeah,
he can't defend easily.
He got them away. Russia can't build anyway. He would have had a disband. And not only that, but now he's precipitated a situation in which Italy and Russia are just completely not talking to each other, angry with one another, unable to cooperate. The threat of that winter green is completely past. No, not only that, but actually going to Trieste would have overextended him to some extent. What I love here is if he builds a fleet, he can ensure that he can rotate into Greece, using Serbia as a support, or Bulgaria even.
Why didn't he move into Ionian? Why didn't he bounce Ionian? I mean,
I
thought that Greece to Albania would work.
That would have been better. I think he must have thought. I think Italy probably just lied to him.
Oh, because he doesn't have Greece. He wanted to make sure that they didn't walk out. Okay.
And also, yeah, and also, I think he's also cutting. Well, Greece is moving to Albania to cut support, a possible support.
But if it's over, they don't want to move out. Got it.
That's right. Yeah, but regardless, I actually think Turkey, diplomatically, he's really been doing very well. He built that fleet in Smyrna, right? Somehow Italy didn't react to that fleet. Clearly a lie of some sort, right? But Italy's not angry with him at all. He's angry at Russia. So, he's wedged apart as possible opponents. He has a solid line, a steady line towards expansion. His ally is diplomatically isolated and needs him.
I can see what communication they have, because it almost felt like both of them felt like they had to court Russia for help. Like they didn't, like they either don't have those lines of communication, or they just didn't feel like it made sense for Italy and Turkey to work together.
Okay. Meanwhile, look at Germany. Look at the big brain on Germany here. Germany got back all its home centers.
Yeah, Russian support came 6 years later.
Amazing.
It's got a solid ally in France. I mean, I'm loving it. Loving it for Dave in Germany.
But what does Germany do now?
That's a good question.
You're gonna have 3 armies.
So
can't really go against England.
So that's a good question. He has to go against Russia or France, right? He cannot contest England's position because he has no fleets. And both France and Russia have helped him. So on one hand, it's a difficult decision because you have to go against one of your friends, more or less, the people who helped you get back on your feet. On the other hand, being caught between two lovers allows you to choose between them and allows you to be courted, which is kind of nice. Doesn't necessarily need to act this quite right this second, but it's a good position to be in. I will say
for a while, but
I will say that if I was England here, I would recognize that, and I would probably disband the Berlin fleet, and so I could build. I actually would not want to put any pressure at all onto Germany, recognizing that Germany can't hurt me anymore. If I do build a fleet in Liverpool and move it to the Irish Sea, I can hold on to my 6 centers indefinitely. I would actually, this is funny coming from me, but be patient here, lock up everyone else in a room together and let them fight. I don't know if that's in Riaz's more aggressive nature, but I think that's what I would do here. Even if you can't convince Germany of something, Germany has to go one way or the other. So
and you always have North to do whatever you want it to do. So you have one free unit to just cause havoc. I would have done the same thing.
I mean,
amazing comeback story. Good job, Dave.
And a good comeback story for our used car salesman.
Yep. Got all his centers back. Unfortunately, he's kind of locked against England. So
I think France. I mean, yeah, right now it's another bet on like what will Germany do, because I think the analysis is right. It's either anti-France or anti-Russia. There's nothing you can do against England. But I mean, props to Philip for leaving Holland vacant 2 times in a row and getting away with it.
Yeah, very impressive. Looks like Italy expected a support into the Mid-Atlantic. I do like how he is
Which wouldn't have worked.
Well, it wouldn't have been. It would have been to bounce England. I mean, Maybe he was expecting a double support. I don't know. I think Philip really, really wants us to ask him why he's supporting Albania and convoying to Albania, but I still don't care. But for once, I have to say, even though I'm usually kind of systematically against holding everything, holding everything, I actually think holding everything wasn't a bad option here at all. Especially when you have like a shitstorm kind of blowing over. Sometimes the best thing is to bunker down like this, and the more affable and cool-headed personalities in this game are really, I think, going to benefit here, and by that I mean France and Turkey.
Germany, I mean, Germany's only at 3, probably can't win, but isn't engaging in the Discord ridiculousness. It's probably keeping a pretty good reputation alive in the game, and might survive. I mean, Italy's a tough country to knock out, but if I'm reading this map correctly, Italy's down to 4, while Germany's going to be at 3.
I think Italy's in a lot of trouble here with the 2 disbands. It's going to be he has 2 disbands, right? So
yep.
And I'm assuming he's not going to give Russia Venice because he hates Russia now. And in that case, there's actually no way for him to hold the Ionian unless France helps him. So France has not just an excuse, but actually a necessity to creep up on him to some extent. Now, depending on what England builds here, I actually think maybe going against England's still not the worst option, or at least pushing him back a little bit.
I think he has to get rid of Albania and probably Tyrrhenian. Or no, maybe he's got to keep Albania and West.
Well, the problem is Turkey's probably going to build a fleet here, and he can't stop Turkey from rotating a fleet into Greece. So if he can't get 3 fleets to bear on the Ionian, he's going to lose it by next fall. And as you guys know, the Ionian, once you lose the Ionian as Italy, the writing's kind of on the wall. I mean, you might get France and Turkey locked up there against each other for a while, but it's only a matter of time before you are partitioned. When
you lose the Ionian, then the army goes onto the boot for Turkey. And once you have a Turkish army on the boot, it's hard to get that army off.
Yeah. I think, it's funny. I mentioned this last podcast, Ed, but, you spent so much time apologizing to Italy for getting angry that he eliminated.
I was right all along.
and saying, well, I suppose you were right. Maybe it's an IT, maybe it's this. And it's kind of looking like he's just going to be nothing but a bloody splat, or a fly on the windshield of the juggernaut. And if so, I mean, I think you might have to retract your apology. I don't know.
I'm going to retract my apology. Pez was the meat shield for Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time now the shield's gone. So now Pez is the meat shield for France. I mean, Max is the meat shield for France.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for him, how things change.
I think Germany, having said that, though, I think Russia can't just limit itself to going after Italy. I think Germany is going to have to worry about the Russian bear on the door.
Mm-hmm.
But is really crippled. I mean, Russia has no ability to build northern fleets. And in an RT,
I think Russia's very vulnerable. If Germany decides to pivot and side with Italy, Turkey can definitely monopolize and take any centers it wants. I think it's Turkey's game to lose right now. It has animosity from Italy. It might have some pent-up aggression from Germany for taking so long. England's obviously not going to let up. It's going to keep holding on. So
with any other player, right? My instinct in this situation, if I'm Italy, is the only way I can get out of this is to create friction between R and T.
Correct.
And the only way I can create friction between R and T is to give T a lot of my dots. But I don't know if Tanj will, take the he'll just take the dots, but he might not turn against Tsar.
Why would he? Right now with Russia losing St. Petersburg, unable to build in the north. And let's talk in a minute about whether it was actually a good idea to help Germany here, but with a strong Germany impeding progress there, and Turkey and Russia could stick together, and Turkey will outpace Russia, I think. So. I don't see any reason. Again, it's masterful play by Tanjian. As you guys know, I actually love alliance play. Once I realize that it is going to stick, then I start rooting for it. I think Tanjian's played masterfully. I think that his kind of patient loyalty, his honestly, even the forgiveness he showed has really paid off here. And all he has to do is outrace Russia. And the way he's actually, I think he's played Italy like a fiddle, right? He built in Smyrna and Italy still didn't respond. Italy hates Russia while he's the one who honestly poses a bigger threat to Italy. And now Italy might even consider throwing him centers. I mean, just amazing work by Tanjian. Way to be the smallest asshole on the board. Good job.
And
okay, but I have a question about his moves, Stitches. Why doesn't Bulgaria move to Greece and then Aegean supports Eastern to Ionian? I mean,
he's just worried about a stab, I guess. He's trying to be as safe as possible.
The IT stab, I guess.
Stabbed before, or RT, or RI. He's worried about a wintergreen stab, so he's completely protected. He's been stabbed before. He's full in on this alliance, but he's being very cautious. He wants his build. That way he can react if things go badly. So he's probably heard from Max that he might not be interested in it. So he's assuming maybe Max and Ewok have a deal, which I guess they did. So he wants to cover all his bases. I think that's the safer play. It might not be most efficient, but
I will say though, now that I look more closely, so it didn't work, but there's actually I'm always a big fan of what I call suck them in moves, right? Where you kind of leave something open that they would not expect. And then, so they'll expect a bounce and you get that tile. And I think that maybe Turkey expected him to rotate Albania into the Adriatic. And for that reason, intentionally left Ion with only one going in. You see what I mean? So he could have, he could have rotated into Greece and rotated the army up for free, more or less. I'm not totally against, honestly, defending Serbia, both because he does have the eager soft stabber, to use the term EVR gave us for Ewok's strategy next to him, but also sometimes just supporting something, even if you don't necessarily think you're gonna get stabbed, puts it into the mind of your ally that you will always act defensive, and maybe that will make them more reluctant to stab you later. So I like the move. I think it's fine. Keeping Italy out of the Ionian would have been great, but I think it works out pretty nicely.
I think the Greece move was just to break support. But just in case it did move, you want to make sure you got it built.
Yeah, it's both. Yeah, so you have to balance all the possible good outcomes and bad outcomes when you make a move. So.
But to respond to Ed, it's not always just throwing to Turkey to break up that pairing, but you could also do what he did when Austria attacked him, is invite France down as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dangerous game either way. You were having France or Turkey coming from either way, but sometimes that balance helps. You can utilize them against each other. If you can garner German support, it'll stay alive a little bit longer. But yeah, either way, it seems like it's going to be a decline for Italy.
I think so
unless
too.
something crazy happens.
Okay, so grade the moves. I will tell you that I believe Italy retreated to Venice and Berlin did not disband, it retreated to Baltic. So thoughts on grades? I heard you say Turkey was masterful hand, so we'll start with your grade of Turkey.
I'm giving a Turkey another A. I mean, it's really, it's not really worth thinking too hard about. Turkey was a power I didn't think could win this game, and in the past few moves has become maybe my front runner to win the game. At least he's up there with some of the other powers. I would put him on top. I mean, I see the most clear route to expansion for him. He has neighbors who now hate each other, which is delightful. And it's not like every single move is some tactical virtuoso kind of solo, but on the other hand, he is Turkey, right? And that's not how you play Turkey anyway, really, unless you're going against Russia and using the Black Sea in fun ways. And diplomatically, it's just been just one triumph to the next, building in Smyrna without a reaction from Italy. And in fact, Italy hating Russia more than he hates him. I'm not saying maybe he isn't going around planting those seeds as some might, but maybe his cool and detached and gentlemanly nature is really working here. And we have to give him credit for that.
Stitches?
I'm gonna give him a low A just because I feel like it is tactically sound, and he does have an ally. I just feel like there could be a lot more that could be going on. But looking at disbands, looking at Italy's disbands, I would definitely say that he won the A comment just for Italy's reaction to all of this. So
Yeah, we haven't shown them yet, but I suspect if they're favorable disbands, and we'll get into that,
if we take into effect the disbands that Italy does, not so much his builds because I don't like his builds, but
I think for me it's a solid A. I mean, Tanj, I'm very happy for you, and he's playing a very good game, and he's preserved his options. He can move against Russia whenever he wants. He can keep Italy. Hopefully, Italy will be angrier at Russia than him. Seems like he's doing well. Okay, Russia's grades.
I have to say, I actually will give him a B, and it's very clear. It's very close to being an A. And actually, it's not because of the shitstorm that his lying to Italy kicked up. I actually think that lie, even though he apparently expended an enormous amount of social capital with the board, or at least some parts of the board, it was worth it. He broke Italy with this betrayal. He broke, he really did. Italy getting that second disband is something of a finishing move. Whatever he did, I'd say it was worth it. And beyond that, I really should have stuck to my psychoanalytic profile of Ewok, right? Because it did turn out that he just had an unconscious masochistic desire to leave St. Petersburg. And in that sense, I'm really proud of him, right? He supported into a center. He did something aggressive. He's kind of discovering himself. He's getting over his kind of repressed nature. I like it. We can't kill this guy for being passive for multiple seasons in a row and then say that we don't like that he supported into Trieste. So the reason I give him a B is actually, I'm not sure that it was a good idea to help Germany here, because now, of course, the diplomatic situation could change things, but France's 3 armies kind of set up in a defensive line. And I do think that Germany is going to turn into something of a mercenary here, but he could side with England against France, but I think England now, either Riaz is furious with Ewok and the things have gotten personal and he's going to want to go against Russia. And even if that is something of a ploy to organize the board in a certain way, even if it's not entirely authentic, he still has to go along with his own ploy, or he will seem like a hypocrite, or like he's feigning these emotions. So England's going to want to go against Russia now, even though he's going to need at least 4 units up there to do anything, which is more than he can afford.
Okay, Keith, grade. It's just a grade.
Oh, sorry, Russia's
forever.
Sorry, Russia's the softer target. I don't think that he should have given Germany extra center, because I think that Germany will go against him.
All right, superstition. Russia's grade.
I'm gonna give him a B. I think that he overall got no center, so that's a solid C work. He actually burned the bridge with Italy, but forged something with Turkey. I kind of like the German move because right now England is your board topper and ensuring that he doesn't have extra units to push you and that deadlock between Italy and France continues. I think that's a good move. It gives Germany a little bit more flexibility that they'll probably get Holland and build a fleet to start breaking down what's going on. So I think it's long-term strategy to push England back. He's got to look at controlling the West the best he can, and that's propping up Germany. It could backfire, but right now, hopefully he's resting on that political capital that he got a mic on his feet.
Oh, okay. I forgot to do this, but in spring I gave, I believe I gave Turkey an A incomplete. It's definitely an A. Get rid of the incomplete. I don't know what I gave Russia, except I know there was an incomplete. It's an F incomplete. You know, we now know that the spring 1906 was an F, but the fall here I think is a solid B plus. Okay, I agree with you. I don't quite understand what's going on with Germany, but if it's a play to gain favor with Germany, to turn his back a little bit against France or England, but just not him, because he's going to feel some sort of loyalty owed, that's not a bad play for Russia, but that's a dangerous game because France really saved Germany. Like in the world of, you know, this is just a nice little assist. This is like a little alley-oop for Germany, but you know, France really did save Germany. So like in terms of if it's a loyalty game, I would side with France. And you're right about, I mean, Burgundy's essentially impenetrable unless he decides to go with England. And I'm not sure he is. And so Italy, I had graded, and I'll give my Italy grade and turned over to you. I'd given him a whatever incomplete. Spring 1906 is definitely an F. He lost out on the bet. Okay. He bet there was a wintergreen. And frankly, for this season, other than taking the Ionian, you know, he got outplayed. He got out diplomacy. He made someone swear on their life and honor. Apparently, that's what the allusion is to, and he lost. I'm not saying that he didn't have a good faith reason not to rely on that, but he relied on it and turned out to be wrong. And so he can be mad at Ewok all he wants to be, but he's the one who got played. And so when you're grading, that's a D for me. Can't blame you for getting it wrong all the way, but here it's getting it wrong, losing Trieste, and really your position becomes untenable to win this game.
Wait, Ed, you gave two different grades. You give an F and a D, which is it.
I'm gonna give him a D.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's all bad except you took Ionian and you basically covered everything about it.
You got played by Russia. You got played by Turkey. You didn't garner any allies there. For some reason, you ran into Mid-Atlantic. I don't think you're helping your cause there. So taking Ionian strategically is the best part, just to save your butt a little bit longer. So yeah, D minus.
Okay. And let's move to I already graded him. So let's move to Germany.
It has to be an A, right? He has all his home centers back. He was down. He isn't the first to be eliminated by some miracle. And he still might not be the next to be eliminated.
He might not be eliminated.
Yeah.
Be eliminated.
So, amazing job.
It's hard to get rid of a 3-center Germany with 3 armies.
He has 2 of the threats to his centers. Well, actually, he has 3 just locked into kind of a personal problem with each other. He has what appears to be a very solid ally in France. He has different directions he can go. Just great job. Good job, Dave.
Stitches?
Definitely an A. Increased your centers by 50%. You're working with Russia. You're working with France. You're working with whoever will help you. He's definitely the mercenary of choice, and he's a strong tactician on top of that. So, what's the rest of this?
A plus plus plus. Each of the pluses are for the little home centers you got back. So you know, ultimately here, I love what he's done. I love that he didn't give up. I love that the man is playing hard and playing well. Okay, Philippe and France.
I mean, like I said, I usually hate the fact that he held everything, right? But he did really well to hold everything. I don't care what the inside joke is about Albania at all. So I'll give him an A minus actually for that. But it was the right thing to do here, is to lay low, let the shitstorm blow over. You know, he has a solid line in case of German incursion. He kind of outguessed England. If I think England was actually trying to give a malicious support to Germany, thinking that they would self-bounce to protect that center. So holding tight, very good. Yeah, you know, he had to hold Picardy because there could have been a fleet shift down possibly. I think yeah, I'd say an A minus. I kind of like how he's a little bit non-committal between England and Italy and keeping his options open. Tangian, probably the most likable two on the board. So there's that. So yeah, he's doing very well. There's a lot of actual good grades here, strangely enough.
Yeah, with Italy creeping up on you, I don't think he could do much but just hold and try to ensure he had all the builds he possibly could. And he came out with one. So yeah, I'd say it's an A.
Yeah, that's another mistake by Italy. He should have moved out of knowing what's it's a tough situation. I just can't believe he just trusts Turkey so much. I mean, if you wanted France to move towards England and get out of your hair, you wouldn't stay in the Western Med after that failed kind of setup for a stab. So that's another mistake by Italy. But yeah, well done, Philip. Well done.
I also give him an A. Boring but effective. So can't fault you for being boring. And then Riaz, I don't think Riaz expected to lose Berlin. I really don't. I see the malicious support there, but you know, on the one hand, he got Belgium, lost Belgium, got St. Petersburg, but then loses Berlin. I think we all know how much he should have been playing in that theater anyways. It is what it is. I mean, he could have, like, again, I will point out, he could have moved Berlin to Kiel, supported by Denmark. I mean, I don't know how many times have I point, like, why, like, what is so hard about that move that we can't do it? Like, I don't get it. But his grades.
I give it an F, I think. I think it seems like Riaz, you know, he's such a subtle tactician, and like I really admire some of his moves, but at times I think he overthinks things, like that malicious support. I think he was overthinking it there.
How would it have been if Berlin moves to Kiel, supported by Denmark, North moves to Holland?
Yeah, so again, he made this mistake a few times in a row where he could have gotten that fleet over to Kiel. And again, like, so you said that the fleet retreats to Baltic, right?
Correct.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a mistake too, to be honest. I mean, that does push him closer to Russia, and if he can mass enough in the Northeast, he can do something to Russia, but it's just a waste of resources. I really think he should have disbanded that and rebuild it. I think he needed to secure the kind of northwestern shore of the continent.
Well, he wouldn't have got a rebuild. That would have been his effective disband.
Well, no, he got St. Petersburg, so
no, yeah,
zero.
Yeah, he lost one in the spring.
If he disbanded Berlin, he could have rebuilt.
Yeah, so he would have gotten a build. He would have gotten a build, and or he could have had Kiel.
No,
I mean,
no. Like, oh, you mean he got? Oh, because he got Belgium piffed.
Yeah, he got a something popped in the spring.
Got it.
Yeah, so he kind of overthought it with respect to Holland. He still has this unwillingness to shift back west, which I think what he needs to do. Even if he was going to take the Baltic, then he should have come down to Helgoland-Bite, I think, to focus his energies there. His line continues to be a little bit too kind of scattered and drawn out. And I think he might be, you know, I'm all for playing with your heart and emotion. I really am, but you do have to temper that with some kind of cool-headedness as well. And I think he needs to cool it a little bit and maybe not rely so much on his virtuoso abilities. And
so his grade is what?
Oh, I already gave it. I gave him an F.
F.
Yeah.
Stitches?
Yeah, I already gave you credit last season for the STP, so I'm not going to give you credit just to hold it. That's a normal move. Attacking MAO, pretty basic. But yeah, tapping Holland and getting in the Kiel. You got to consolidate there. And now and then retreating the Baltic. I'm like, now you're just putting pressure on Germany for no reason. So he can't really move. I don't know.
I think an F would have been if he lost a channel, which he could have lost with this set of moves, right? Mid-Atlantic could have gone to English Channel and taken it.
I think he knew he had Italy coming.
Right, but I mean, he does have to worry about a retreat if he pushes that out of Mid-Atlantic, though, which is kind of annoying too.
That is annoying.
Because he doesn't have the Irish Sea filled, so that causes kind of some headaches. It makes it impossible for France to turn around, which is probably what he wants.
I don't know if I would have moved Berlin to Baltic. Now that I realize what you're saying about the rebuild.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do quickly. England does have a disband. What do you think England disbands?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No disband. Just keeps it. All right. I keep messing that up. France gets a build. What does France build?
I think we said Fleet Marseille, and that's what he built, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's like a small case to be said if you wanted to help Italy with being extra super duper nice to Italy, but France needs to think about themselves a little bit more, and they can still help Italy with the fleet, and it allows them to go both ways and for more security and more opportunity. So yeah, Fleet Marseille is the obvious choice.
Yeah, although you have to worry about Germany, so I'd be curious if he builds an army in Marseille, but I don't think you build in Paris under any circumstances. Italy gets 2 disbands. I'm on record for Albania and West.
That's what I would do. You want everything as close to your home centers as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree. I see the logic there, but there's a big danger in getting rid of too many fleets because you're going to lose the Ionian in the fall. You have to think a little more long term. Actually, you need Albania for that to some extent. Like, I would want to move Albania into the Adriatic, and I would disband Tyrolia because that fleet can't be tapped. Russia could move around you, but they'd be overextended. I think the Western Med might be a good candidate for disband too, because that makes France feel a little more easy. Maybe they'll want to help you / move against England. But yeah, it's a really difficult decision.
I actually agree that Tyrolia and West would probably be the best ones because you can always support Venice with the Adriatic, and there's nothing there that's going to hit Venice. So you actually have 3 fleets then ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah, you have 3 fleets and you can defend. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Will we see Fleet Khan or Fleet Smyrna from Turkey?
I would like to see Fleet Khan, just give his options, because right now Russia's in a really weak position. That if you have the ability, you can always pivot. But if he's interested in keeping that, which he probably is because he's very loyal, it'll probably be Fleet Smyrna.
I actually think a Fleet Smyrna, which is what I predicted in the public chat, is what he will do. And actually, I think what he should do too. I don't see any reason to antagonize Russia. Russia has too much going on. I mean,
can't do anything about it.
The argument here is that by keeping that fleet in Romania, Russia always has the option of moving back into the black, and then this does have a path to stabbing Turkey at some point. But Russia has too many enemies, too many fronts to go against Turkey right now. I think building in Constantinople, if you don't intend on going into the Black Sea, will just give Russia an excuse to go there, and then he'll be there and you'll have a problem. And that fleet is kind of pinned in Romania by the threat of the 2 Turkish armies, which is another reason why I think that it was good for him not to go into Trieste. So there's really not much of a threat.
Russia cannot threat him at all. If he wants to go on the black, he can take the black.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing it. I think he has a good thing going here. I think there's a very clear path to expansion in the Mediterranean. France turns around in a really aggressive fashion that could change, but yeah, I think Fleet Smyrna.
All right, there we go. Fleet Smyrna it is. I'm a little surprised at the Tyrrhenian disband. This is by Italy. Fleet Marseille is good. I'm surprised not to see a fleet Munich, but I guess an army will do if you're Germany. I guess the only real question here is, what do Italy's disband tell you? To me, they say, Turkey, come on in. The water's warm.
No,
Excuse
I
me.
don't understand
Yeah.
keeping West unless you think England's gonna bail you out somehow, or I don't know. If he sees France and Turkey as equal threats, still having your fleets not be able to interact with one another is not good.
Don't understand it either. I agree. I mean, Ed, this is exactly what you said earlier in the podcast, that he might be trying to destabilize the relationship between Russia and Turkey by overpowering Turkey. Don't really see that working. And I'm really puzzled by antagonizing France in any way. I mean, you helped France against England, and now France might be willing to help you to some extent. And even if you wanted France to move against England to get away from you, then it would be, you know, even if you were worried about France, it might be better to disband that fleet.
A couple things.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what it could be. Sorry, this just occurred. It could actually be that he's pro-France in the sense that he might be telling France, "Look, I'm disbanding the Tyranian. Come get free centers, and I will help you with West." That could be it. He could be doing kind of almost like a double throw to Turkey and France, and really trying to destabilize the board a la Pez.
After tapping MAO, I don't see France moving anything but Marseille, and I don't think keeping West is good if you want French help, because then it keeps France from being able to rotate out without trusting you blindly.
So before we do the last thing, which is who will win predictions, I want to point out it's an incredibly balanced board. 3 powers at 7, 1 at 6, 17 supply centers in the West, 17 supply centers in the East through 6 years. It's an impressive game when you look at it on those numbers and levels. I'm impressed that England has, when fighting a 3-front war, has only lost 3 in 2 years. I'm impressed that France has regained all of their losses, +1 from a stab, I believe. And frankly, Russia, who has no St. Petersburg and has seemingly done nothing, occupies the entirety of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. So these are all things the players are impressing me. And yet I think maybe the best position belongs to Turkey, who's 4th out of in terms of supply center count. So it's a great game from that perspective. And I want to commend all of the players, except for Pez, who's obviously awful. But with that in mind, who will win the season 6 Nexus main event?
God, it's so hard to know because of what you just described. But when you add the kind of layers of emotion and the diplomatic situation, I think it has to be one of the more agreeable players. Not to say that other people are not agreeable, but more agreeable to the board as a whole. So I would narrow it down to France and Turkey, and I think Turkey is a better position insofar as France still has Holland vulnerable and a lot of fleets that he can't really get rid of next to him. England does have the advantage that if he just locks up the West, which he doesn't seem that willing to do, he can't lose anything more. There's no possible way he can lose anything more. But I don't know if that's really going to be enough to win. I see Turkey taking this. Russia, there's a path to, but I'm going to say Turkey.
I'm going to say Turkey definitely has the best chance. He has an Italy that's angry at Russia. Russia's in a very weak position, especially if Germany pivots. I think Germany really gets to decide who wins, if it's going to be France or Turkey. England almost has a neutral or a minor stalemate line, but at this point, it seems inevitable that eventually France will outguess them, especially if Italy pivots one way or the other. Once France has enough leeway that doesn't have to worry about one side or the other, it can really start pushing in. If it can't, it can always swing back down, hopefully get Tunis and scoop up a few more points that way.
I just don't understand. Now that I'm looking at this map, England's play of keeping Baltic. I mean, what's that? unless Denmark convoys somewhere and Baltic moves there and bounces, I'm struggling with that play from England, but I understand that's not the question because I posed it. I think it's too close to call between Russia and Turkey. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how France is going to pick up centers unless they're Italian ones. And the more he commits towards Italy, the more vulnerable he might be towards England. So it's a tough position for France, I think. But I think any of those three are in it. I don't see how England is going to pick up anything without flipping Germany or Russia. Russia seems impossible to flip given what we're seeing in Discord. And Germany, if he could change Germany, then don't discount England's ability to win.
That is a possibility. I mean, in some ways, that the most logical ally at this point in the game for Germany is England. But so the tiebreaker, right? So Riaz is last on the tiebreaker, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that you could see. Maybe if he had the tiebreaker and clung to 7, I could see it. But yeah, I'm not really.
Yeah, and you say that, Italy is the easiest place to take centers off of if you're France, but I mean, just this last turn, he could have taken Channel, and he has 2 armies stacked on the Channel.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible for France to go through England. It's just harder.
It's true. I guess I mean, when I graded France, I think we are underselling a little. There might be consequences to his complete lack of interest in terms of pushing towards England, but we'll see.
All right. Hey, thanks for a great episode, guys. Thanks to diplomacybriefing.com for sponsoring us. This will obviously go up at the conclusion of spring 1907, which 7 or 08 are the high mountain stages of the Nexus main event. Very similar to how you win the Tour de France. Is probably more grueling physically, but event. But we shall see what happens in those mountain stages. Good afternoon, fellas. I would say that as opposed to good night. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, have a good evening.